So what's going on, guys? It's Jamie, it's speakboxing. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel before you click on 20 of the videos. Also comment below in the comment section if you guys have any opinions on what I'm saying in any of the videos. Like always, it is appreciated if you guys could drop me a quick sub or two on my channel. So with a record of 32-0 with 23 knockouts, a two-weight world champion by the age of 30 and an undisputed champion by the age of 30, is Terence Crawford the best fighter alive today? Is he the best boxer in the world in terms of pound for pound? Because that's the debate a lot of people like to have. A lot of people have different opinions. A lot of people feel that Vasyl Lomachenko is number one. A lot of people feel that Gennady Golovkin is number one. A lot of people feel that Guillermo Rigondeaux is number one. You know what I mean? So it's an opinion that varies, in my opinion. But at the same time, I think that Terence Crawford right now is the best fighter in the world. You've got to say that pound for pound. But that could change very easily. Obviously, he's at welterweight now, so we're going to have to see him in tough fights against the likes of Errol Spence and Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, people like that, you know what I mean? We're going to have to see him tested at welterweight. And Terence Crawford, he's a fighter that just came out of nowhere, didn't he? Like, about 4 or 5 years ago. Like, he fought Breeders Prescott, didn't he? He was an undefeated fighter in that fight. Obviously, he's still undefeated to this day. But even though he was undefeated, he never really fought anyone like a Breeders Prescott. And I think he was a last-minute replacement, Terence Crawford. Yeah, he was. He was a last-minute replacement for an opponent for Breeders Prescott. And a lot of people felt that Breeders Prescott was going to win the fight. Even though he wasn't really the same Breeders Prescott who fought Amir Khan. They just felt that he would be too much for Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford went straight into that fight and dominated and won every round. You know what I mean? Like, just totally outclassed Breeders Prescott. And that's when people felt, you know what, this guy is looking alright, you know what I mean? This guy's looking decent. He just outclassed Prescott. He stepped up and he passed his first test. And he fought Klimanov, beat him, total air sound there, 10 round, dominated him. Then he fought Ricky Burns, and that's when I first really sat down and watched him. When he fought Ricky Burns, I'd heard of him before, but I never really sat down and watched him. So I watched him when he fought Ricky Burns, and he outclassed Ricky Burns. Just totally. Like, Ricky Burns, in my opinion, good solid fighter, good solid UK fighter, very tough guy, been in some wars, put on some very good performances over the years, put on some very bad performances over the years. But in that fight, he was just not on the level of a Terence Crawford, and that was clear very early in that fight. And the scores were a lot closer than what I had it. Like, I had Terence Crawford winning nearly every round of that fight. Like, Ricky Burns just got totally outclassed in the fight by Terence Crawford, and that's when he picked up his first world title. And then he fought Beltran. He fought Gamboa afterwards, and that was really the performance that put the boxing world on note. Because even though he was the bigger guy and stuff against Gamboa was hot then, you know what I mean? He was a hot fighter. Like, he had that vast amateur experience, Cuban fighter, ridiculous hand speed. Like, Yorkers Gamboa's hand speed was ridiculous, and he made the jump from featherweight to fight Crawford. He moved up a division to fight him, and Crawford just used his size to bully Gamboa in there, just outboxed him, beat him up, got into a dogfight with him, and just was just too much for Gamboa. Like, Gamboa had his moments in the fight. Early on, he had his moments in the fight, but then Terence Crawford did what he always does, just gets into his groove. He studies your, and when he worked Gamboa out, that's when he started to really take over the fight. And the round that he stopped Gamboa in, he was actually shook by Gamboa. Like, Gamboa shook him with a punch, but he managed to shake that off, and then he managed to get the stoppage himself, dropping Gamboa about 4 times in the fight. And that was a fight of the year contender, Terence Crawford in New York as Gamboa. That was a very good fight, and that's got the boxing world on notice for Terence Crawford. And then he fought Beltran. That was a very good fight as well. But just like every person he fights, he seems to just like dominate, you know what I mean? Like, for the first couple of rounds, he might be trying to work you out and stuff like that, but he doesn't lose too many rounds, Terence Crawford. Like, once he's worked you out, the writing's pretty much on the wall, because he can just adapt to styles. The way that the guy adapts to styles is just very, very good. Like, he can just morph into whatever it takes to shut his opponent down. So, like, the way his mind processes a style, and the way that he can exploit a weakness of an opponent very quick. It's just very good to watch. Like, you know what I mean? He's probably one of my favourite fighters to watch in the world, Terence Crawford. And his switch hitting style, like his switch hitting is just second to none in my opinion. Like, you wouldn't even know if this guy was orthodox or southpaw. Like, you see guys switch hit sometimes, but you can tell that they're not as good, for example, standing at southpaw than they are at orthodox. But with Terence Crawford, there's like no difference. You know what I mean? The guy can fight a whole fight in orthodox and fight a whole fight at southpaw, and he still dominate you, and he still look good. Like, it's just very, very good boxing ability, very high level, and the technical ability of Terence Crawford has to make him pound for pound in the world. You know what I mean? He's got to make him a top pound for pound fighter, if not the pound for pound best in the world right now. But like I said, he's still got to fight guys like Terence Crawford, not Terence. He's still got to fight guys like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. I think he's gonna fight Jeff Horn as well, Sean Porter, Kell Brooks there as well if he stays at 147. Like, there are some good fights at 147 pounds for Manny Pacquiao if Pacquiao decides to come back. But I've always felt that Terence Crawford would beat Manny Pacquiao. I've always thought that Manny Pacquiao wouldn't be able to keep up with the boxing IQ of a Terence Crawford. I'm sorry, Manny Pacquiao in his prime, probably one of my favourite fighters, but no, not anymore. Like, now he's just very, very faded, very jaded. Like, that fight against Jeff Horn, like, Jeff Horn was confusing him, and all Jeff Horn was doing was circling the left hand of Manny Pacquiao in the fight. That's all he was doing. Watch Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao. All he was doing was circling that left hand, and Manny Pacquiao had problems with it. And Freddie Roach, his trainer, couldn't even tell him that. You know what I mean? He couldn't even say, look, this guy's circling your left hand, you're going to have to adjust. But he couldn't do that. So I'm thinking, if Terence Crawford goes in there, starts switch hitting and stuff like that, it's just going to give Manny Pacquiao fits. It's just going to give him a problem. And I just see Terence Crawford outboxing him in the fight and winning a very, very one-sided decision at this point in Manny Pacquiao's career. Don't get me wrong, if it was the same Pacquiao that fought Oscar De La Hoya and Ricky Hatton, then I'd be saying it could be a very dangerous fight for him, but not now. But the Keith Thurman, Errol Spence fights, they interest me for Terence Crawford. They really do interest me because you've got Errol Spence. Errol Spence is not the technically most gifted fighter out there, but what he does have is a very, very good mindset. Errol Spence, when he goes in there, he's looking to do a job on you, and he's incredibly focused. Like, we saw that when he fought Kell Brook in his last fight. Like, even though there was 30,000 fans from Sheffield booing him, he just went straight in there. He knew the job he had to do, and for the first 6 or 7 rounds in that fight, it was very close. The fight, like, in some of the rounds, Kell Brook was outboxing Errol Spence, like totally outboxing him in some of the rounds. But then Errol Spence started to use his size. He started to dig them body shots in. Them body shots, I'm telling you now, like, once Errol Spence is on the inside against you, then it's very hard to get him off. It's very hard to get him out, because when he's on the inside, he's so dangerous. The way that he throws body shots and breaks you down, like, he's got a similar style to a Marvin Hagler. Like, he's not a big one-punch knockout, concussive puncher, but he's just there and he's hitting you with like bludgeoning shots till you go down, and he's just dominating you on the inside. And then you got Keith Thurman. He's very technically gifted as well. He's very good on his feet. Keith Thurman, very good boxer, and he showed that he can have a scrap as well. Like, Keith Thurman can sit and he can stand and he'll trade with you as well, but he's very good at moving. He's very good on his feet. We saw that when he fought Danny Garcia. He boxed a very intelligent fight in that fight because he knew that Danny Garcia had slow feet, so he used that against him by giving him a lot of movement and stuff like that. He's very good with angles and stuff like that, Keith Thurman, and it gave Danny Garcia a lot of problems in that fight. Don't get me wrong, that was a close fight, but I didn't see it as a split decision. Like, I couldn't give Danny Garcia that fight. Like, I gave it to Keith Thurman by 3 rounds. Like, I just couldn't give Danny Garcia that fight, so I had it a UD for Keith Thurman. But I think him and Terence Crawford would be a very highly technical affair, and to an extent I think that's a harder fight for him than the Errol Spence fight, because I think if he's able to keep Errol Spence at bay, then I think he'll be able to keep Terence Crawford at bay. Like, I think if he can keep Errol Spence at bay, then I think he'll be able to keep Terence Crawford at bay. Like, I think if he can keep Errol Spence at bay, then I think he'll be able to beat him. You know what I mean? I think he's very technically gifted, and I think he'll be able to out hustle Errol Spence. But like I said, Errol Spence, incredibly motivated, very focused, very ruthless fighter, and when he gets in on you, he makes you pay. And we saw that when he fought Kell Brook. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this welterweight division in the next couple of years. We got some great fights, and maybe we won't see him in 2018, but hopefully we will see him soon. Hopefully we get to see Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Terence Crawford. You know what I mean? Hopefully we get to see them fights because they're exciting fights and the fights I want to see. And the welterweight division, I'm telling you now, it's always been a very tough division. Like UK fighters coming up at welterweight and stuff like that, I just see it very hard for them to be able to break in to the welterweight division because the talent pool is just so deep right now of great fighters. And let's not forget Danny Garcia as well. Like even though he lost to Keith Thurman, he's still a very very good fighter. Danny Garcia. When he's in the centre of the ring, he's a very good counter puncher. He still has that big left hook that can take guys out and stuff like that. Like Terence Crawford, Danny Garcia, I think that's a great fight. That's a very good fight. Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, that's a great fight. So with a lot of these guys still in the mix at 147 pounds, see if Kell Brook comes back to 147 pounds. But in my opinion, I like Kell Brook, yeah, but I just think he's gonna be jaded. You know what I mean? Like the guy, I'm telling you now, if he didn't fight Gennady Golovkin, he'd be right in this mix. Like he should have just fought Jesse Vargas. I'm telling you now, even though he wasn't getting much money for the fight, but the big fights would have come in my opinion. He should have just waited. You know what I mean? He should have got that fight with Jesse Vargas. Yeah, he might have had to take a pay cut in the fight, but if he would have beaten Jesse Vargas, he still would have been IBF champion. And I think the Errol Spence fight, it could have been a lot easier on him because I think that Gennady Golovkin fight took a lot out of him, and I think he wasn't as fresh as he would have been in the Errol Spence fight if he would have fought Jesse Vargas instead of Gennady Golovkin. You know what I mean? He would have been still on a roll because I would have picked Kell Brook to beat Jesse Vargas. So if he would have beat him, then he would have still been on a roll. He wouldn't have had that eye injury or anything like that. And I think that Errol Spence fight, it could have probably been a different outcome. Maybe Kell Brook could have beat him. You know what I mean? If he was still as fresh. Because even when he wasn't that fresh in that fight, he was still giving Errol Spence a lot of problems. But the weight took his toll on him and stuff like that. The fact that he had to go up to 160 for his fight before and then come back down to 147 pounds. I think it just took a big toll on Kell Brook's body. So anyway, I'm going off subject now anyway. But yeah, Terence Crawford, probably one of my favourite fighters to watch in the world right now. I just wanted to do a video about him because I see it a lot in boxing discussions on Facebook groups and stuff like that. I see a lot of people talking about Terence Crawford and people debating about if he's the best fighter in the world and stuff like that. Well, I'm just giving my 2 pence about it. I think right now, you've got to say he's the best fighter in the world, but it's still very up in the air right now if he will remain that, because he's still got a lot of big fights left to see before we say, yeah, Terence Crawford is the #1 guy. It was different with Andre Ward because Andre Ward already cleaned out all the top guys at 168 pounds, and then he fought the man at 175 pounds. Like, even though Terence Crawford was undisputed champion at 140 pounds, the division, you know what I mean, it wasn't really full of elite talent like the welterweight division is. You know what I mean? Like, Terence Crawford was just the best at 140 pounds. Let's see if he could be the best at 147 pounds, and if he is the best at 147 pounds, in my opinion, that's a different story to being the best at 140 pounds, because that division's a lot more tougher. It's full of more talented fighters, so to be at the top of that division, then that's a real legacy thing. You know what I mean? That's really a good thing for the legacy. So yeah, comment below in the comment section. It's JM, it's Speakboxing.